It was actually a serious magazine to them, but they looked at it as a revolution without bloodshed, and they hated politicians. They even encouraged Roosevelt, when he got elected, to just declare himself dictator so he could implement technocracy. There was a book written on it, actually said that. And then you have their engineers are detailed. That you have their organizational chart that they drew up even back then, where there was going to be a continental director, not a president. No elected president. There'd be a continental director with a continental board, and that continental board would be responsible for various areas of societies, and they would set up these functional specifications for things like healthcare and education and all these other things. And they had it all organized out. Man, all you got to do is sign here on the bottom line, man. We'll do it. We're ready. We got our ducks lined up in a row. We could do this overnight. All you got to do is say yes. And that's what they wanted you to say. Well, here's the problem that the Trilateral Commission had with this whole thing. In any case, Brzezinski aside, all these other scholars aside, a virus has no contagion unless there are hosts who are able to carry it to other organisms who can be infected. Think about Ebola, for instance, or bird flu.
Yes.
You have to have a contagion aspect to it in order to spread the virus. Otherwise, one person gets it and he may die, but that's just one person. So the idea of technocracy had to have a contagion, and here's how it happened. You have the Trilateral Commission plus technology. They had the idea. The United Nations became the contagion for them. The control over the United Nations and influence goes back in the Rockefeller families to when it was first founded. Actually, it sits on land that was donated by John D. Rockefeller. So you've got the United Nations then turning around and doing all these other things. Things like the Rio Earth Summit in 1992, Agenda 21 document that came out of this, the ICLEI organization that reforms local communities, and there's a whole raft of things. There was no room to even put this all on one chart, but the United Nations became the contagion for the idea, and they spread it to all of the world. And so some of the examples of the Trilateral Technocracy Action Plan, Agenda 21 plays in prominently. It's a plan to change the world. This is not a conspiracy. And by the way, just for the sake of show and tell, I have my official book right here.
Excellent.
This is not a conspiracy. This is a book.
Where'd you get that book?
I bought it off of Amazon. And you can too.
Excellent.
You can get your own copy. Folks, I'm telling you, this is not a conspiracy. There's a total of 294 pages on how the United Nations wants to transform the world into a technocracy. And if you think that's enough, there have been other books written about it, like this was written in the United States, Sustainable America. This was kind of the digested version for America. And then these people came out with all these extra rules. This was the bylaws, if you will, of the Agenda 21 booklet. This is it, folks. This is it, the Global Biodiversity Assessment. Look how thick this book is. I'll tell you how heavy it is. It almost makes my wrist sore. 1,140 pages of what has to happen to the world to make sustainable development happen.
Global Biodiversity Assessment.
You can get this off of Amazon too. And if that weren't enough, for you, here's another one. This is from the same organization, from UNEP. That other book's from UNEP, by the way, too, UNEP. This one will just get you.
Cultural and Spiritual Values of Biodiversity.
Oh, boy. This is no slouch book either. I got this book in hardback. Wasn't that cool?
Did you go to Amazon for that one, too?
I did. This book is only 725 pages long.
Oh, is that all?
This is an easy read. Okay, so we're dealing with facts here. There's no conspiracy, folks.
Yeah, psychopaths are real serious people.
People say, "Oh, you're just out of your mind. Agenda 21, are you crazy? I'd like to get this book and hit them with it."
Yeah, me too.
was that just a myth? Or just nothing happened, right? I hit you with this book, but you didn't feel it, right? Because it wasn't a book.
Right. Right.
Okay, so
I'd like to borrow Fifi and load up the Bombay with all of those books and just drop them on people.
Here's the timeline of events. Here's how it happened. In 1987, the United Nations convened the so-called Brundtland Commission to study all this stuff. 1987. Mm-hmm. The book that was produced out of that was this book, Our Common Future. It was written by the commission itself. The chairman of the commission was Gro Brundtland from the Netherlands. She was an environmental person as well as a prime minister, uniquely suited to head the Brundtland Commission. They wrote this book, as I said, Our Common Future. This book became the singular book, according to the United Nations itself, that made the way for the Rio conference in 1992 that produced Agenda 21. They credit Gro Brundtland as being the principal architect and driver of Agenda 21 and sustainable development, and this was the book where the word sustainable development was first popularized. Gro Brundtland was a member of the Trilateral Commission. Let that sink in for just a second. Mm-hmm. She was a member of the Trilateral Commission. Mm-hmm. In 1992, of course, the Earth Summit took place, at the UN Rio Conference on Environment and Development. George H.W. Bush signed it, not all of it, but he signed it as a ceremonial thing. In 1993, March 3rd, Bill Clinton and Al Gore, both members of the Trilateral Commission, out of the blue, announced the National Partnership for Reinventing Government.
National Partnership for Reinventing Government. Now, there's a title for you.
That's what they called it. And then in 1993, the Agenda 21 book was published. That's the big orange book that I just held up. Yep. This little baby right here.
Yep.
And then in 1993, a little bit later, Clinton signs an executive order, 12852, the President's Council on Sustainable Development. He institutionalized it in the United States through an executive order. Thanks, Bill. Remember, Bill is a member of the Trilateral Commission again. In 1993, 3 months later, he signed another executive order, 12862, the National Performance Review / Reinventing Government. He institutionalized the reinvention of government.
Institutionalized it. That's
all members along the way that touched Agenda 21 were all members of the Trilateral Commission. This is beyond stunning, John. This is absolutely over the top. But the facts are the facts. In 1997, the U.S. Conference of Mayors created the Joint Center for Sustainable Communities. This was another program under Clinton that brought ICLEI into our country and policies from Agenda 21 to turn America's cities, towns, and counties into communities of sustainable development. Top down, Congress was nowhere to be seen. They had no part in this. And in 2001, the National Governors Association endorses smart growth. Now, smart growth was merely a change of name from Agenda 21 because they were getting kickback on that in those days. And they said, well, let's just change the name. Let's not call it Agenda 21. Let's call it smart growth. So the National Governors Association endorses smart growth. And just as a side note, I will mention that the copyright notice on the Common Core State Standards document lists the National Governors Association as the co-copyright holder. So it's a small world. Small world. It's an NGO. It has nothing to do. The National Governors Association has nothing to do with the government whatsoever. It's a private organization. Uh-huh. Okay.
Oh,
Sustainable development, people kind of seen some of this stuff. It's the environment and economy and community all mushed together to create this sustainable society. And I'm telling you, by and large, it's just a absolute con. Al Gore has been in the middle of this for a long time. You remember the Inconvenient Truth DVD he made?
yes.
Crisis of global warming, and now he wants to punish all of us deniers. Shame on you. I mean, is he going to spank us? Is he going to, take away our bank accounts? What's he going to do to punish us? And we've seen cap and trade as another thing. Al Gore was up to his eyeballs in. It's all over the world today. We see Obamacare has come in since under Obama, and I've suggested ever since I laid eyes on it from the day one, it's not about your health. It's about your data. They want your data. Do anybody really think they want to give you better health care?
No.
Nobody's ever suggested that. It's what they want your data. They want to know about you. They want everything from birth to death and beyond. And this graphic image of these little blue circles and stuff. This came off of a website of a corporation. I didn't put the name in. I didn't want to necessarily just get people confused. Just look at the graphic. The consumer is in the middle. And all these little discs, this is their mission statement type thing. All these little discs around the outside explain the interaction with the customer and all these other things. So they have CSR strategy stands for corporate social responsibility, by the way, CSR, climate change, health promotion. I'm just going around the ring. Health promotion, renewable energy, water footprint, biodiversity, enterprise risk management, sustainable buildings, sustainable constructions, cradle to cradle. Now, we used to talk about cradle to grave. Now we talk about cradle to cradle, thanks to biometric engineering. With, now they know the human genome, they can kind of predict these things, right?
Oh, yes.
All of these things relate to the consumer. And this, I need to bring out this again, total control over the economic process depends directly upon total information awareness within that economic system. No engineer would ever build a factory floor if they didn't have a way to monitor what's going on the factory floor. How would you know how to adjust the processes on the floor if you didn't have a monitoring system in place, you see? Well, because of that, now you can see why they need a total surveillance society. This is easy to see. Here's the Director of National Intelligence. I put in 4 of the major agencies that he's responsible for: the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, the CIA, Department of Justice. But in fact, the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, has 17 agencies that report directly to him. He is now responsible for all budgetary activity with all those 17 agencies. He personally has to approve every budget. He has to approve every activity of all of these different agencies. He is the kingpin, if you will, in every sense. This position has been underplayed, by the way. So, the DNI is just kind of like just a position, maybe kind of like, not quite like a consultant, but it's just kind of a coordinator. Get everybody together, working on the same page and playing on the same team so that 9/11 doesn't happen again, because we didn't share intelligence. 17 agencies. Well, here's the interesting thing about the DNI. This was created under George Bush, John. April 21st, 2005, George Bush signed this into law to create the DNI and to outfit the whole mechanism, right? And who did he appoint to be the first ever Director of National Intelligence but a Mr. John Negroponte? John Negroponte.
Oh, Lord.
He was a member of the Trilateral Commission, John. This is the man that set up the structure for our entire intelligence system throughout the United States. All 17 agencies were reformed, were transformed by John Negroponte to serve a different master for a different